Hello, everyone. So, this is Dominique here at Gelbord in Maine. And today I'm just super excited to let you all know that we actually have a exhibit here display that is coming from the Elgin History Museum. It is called the Art and Artifacts. And just in case if you missed it when they did have it available at the History Museum, we have it here for you to check it out. And I've actually got two special guests that is coming from Elgin History Museum. I have the museum director, Elizabeth Marston, as well as the volunteer and a photographer artist, Ira Marcus. So thank you both so much for being here today. And they're going to give us a little bit more insight of what everything that is here on display. And then we also have a wonderful case display that we will talk about that momentarily. So how are you both doing today?
Good, Dominique.
Great.
How are you?
Oh,
Great, good to be here. Thanks for having us.
Oh, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. So, I know I gave you an introduction already, but do you want to tell us just a little bit more about your role at Elgin History Museum?
Sure. I'm the museum director, so I work with our staff and our volunteers, our board members, to keep our history kind of going here in Elgin. We want to tell the story of Elgin history. We want to create a sense of pride in our community and also preserve things. So we're preserving objects, archival material, and buildings even, including the cobblestone building over on West Chicago Street.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Ira, I'm just curious, along with the viewers as well. So, what got you really started with this photography art that you have that's behind us here?
Okay, well, for the last several years, I've been photographing along with my wife Jackie, who's been helping out, photographing various objects and artifacts in the museum that are not on display, and then the museum takes them, puts them online, so that people doing research or just people interested in items can see the things that can't be on display all the time. After a couple of years of doing this, I started really noticing some of the aesthetic properties of the different objects. So we have everything from bottles from dairies and breweries to watches to compacts, just all kinds of objects that tell Elgin's history. Right. But noticing certain aesthetic qualities of them kind of gave me the idea of going back, rephotographing some from an artistic perspective, as opposed to just trying to capture a representational view of it. And doing it from the aesthetic perspective gives us a whole nother way of looking at it. So I approached Liz and the curator, Beth Nawara, about doing an exhibit, and they thought, well, it's not too crazy of an idea, I guess. So,
No, it was a great idea.
Yeah, definitely.
and that's how we ended up with what we have here.
Perfect. Wonderful, wonderful. So do you both want to just kind of walk us through and tell us exactly what we're looking at here?
Sure. These are all items from the collection, and Ira chose them based on a wide variety of criteria, right?
Yeah, there were about three things, and then I'll give it right back to you, that I kind of looked at. One is sometimes looking at a macro view or a very close view, you'll see something very different in the object. I'm really into textures and lines and shapes in my photography. I like doing abstract. So that's one thing that you see. Another thing that you'll see, as Liz explains throughout here, you'll see design elements in an object that are very representative of the time period that they came from. Things like Art Deco design on compacts, or Victorian scroll work on something that really helps identify the time frame that it was from. And other things, there's just such great craftsmanship in some of these old items that I just wanted to show those without doing anything to them. And I guess the last thing that I did with some of these was try to be a little more whimsical and do a little bit of digital manipulation, which you can now do with photography, to create something entirely different. So those are the 3 or 4 concepts behind all of the images.
Gotcha.
Well, and if you're looking here, this is a close-up view that especially younger people might not even know what it is, but it's a switchboard. It's an old-timey switchboard. Yeah. And so he's really taken this and highlight, I mean, this is much nicer than it really looks. Okay. So he's made it nicer. And you kind of see it and understand a different thing about it. You start to think, oh, you mean that this is the plug that goes into the line to make me be able to answer the phone.
Okay.
You know, that kind of thing. So we talk about that. But this is actually a teapot. So that's a more manipulated image.
And really what that is, it's a very close image. When I looked at the teapot up here, excuse me, Liz, this is the lid. So we're looking down on the pot. And all those colors, that's just the patina on the pot. And those lines in there, somebody had a thumb on there once, and it created a bit of a thumbprint.
Is in there, yeah.
So all of these little lines up here, but these are things that most people don't normally notice. Right. And by making these photographs, you make them notice these things.
Yeah.
This is really neat. So I'm really curious to see what this really is. So what is this, Elizabeth?
Okay, so this is a stove handle. And it doesn't necessarily look like a stove handle because he's done it so close up. But again, it gives you a different perspective of what this 1920s stove was like. And then he added the colors.
Yeah, the color is done digitally on there. This wouldn't have that red, white, and blue. But I wanted to add the concept because this was made at a time when products were made that were made in the USA, and the USA was considered really king of all of the consumer products. And so that's the red, white, and blue is kind of representative of that. Also, try to do something along the lines of the advertisements that you would have seen in printed material for things like stoves. And we have a toaster in the exhibit from the Toastmaster company that was here in Elgin that I use the same technique on. And again, the idea is in printed ads, they didn't have the 4-color and full color that we have today. They would just tone the photos with a little bit of color like this. So it was kind of representative of those two things.
Yeah. So this piece here, I actually recognize it in the display case over that we have here. So we'll see that in just a moment. So can we give a little detail about that?
Yes, so this is a Medal of Service that was given to James Dangerfield of Elgin during World War I. And he also, and you can read the information that's up here, but he also was awarded many medals. He was a very distinguished soldier, I guess, during World War I.
So this was very interesting. I'm guessing this is some sort of clock of some sort or a watch. Is that correct? Or?
That's right. So Ira really chose some Elgin watches, and Elgin, of course, is famous for making 50 million watches over 100 years. And so these are different time periods. This is a pocket watch. This is a wristwatch dial. And then he's done a little bit of artistic impression with our other pocket watch here.
That looks really clear. Tell us about that.
So the first one that I call High Noon, that image is about an inch tall in the actual watch, and it just struck me, the design and the texture. When you look up close, the texture of the white paint on that watch face just jumps out when you look at it from a macro view. And I love textures, I love lines, and I thought very representative of that whole Art Deco period. And then when you look at this is the inside of a pocket watch, which nobody ever sees, the inside of it. And you look at the design detail that went in there. I mean, some of it is just all of the scroll work that you see in there. That was done, and nobody's going to see that. So it tells you something about the period that goes into this work.
Do we know which period this one was in?
This would have been from the 1880s to 1890s. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this one obviously is not what that watch really looks like. Probably I've watched a little bit too much science fiction and seen maybe a little bit too much of the surrealist work of Salvador Dali. But I just kind of played around in Photoshop to get that image, and I call that one time warp. But
I love that. Are we going to do the time warp dance?
Yeah. Well, seeing as we just had daylight savings time, that's how I feel.
Yes, same here. Wonderful. So let's actually go ahead and we'll go and move over to the display case. Okay, Elizabeth, so we're now we're over here by the display case that everybody will be able to see over here. So can you tell us a little bit more history here?
Sure. Okay, so this is the connection between the photographs and the objects. And we have only the smaller objects here, but you can get a sense when you look at the picture of the toaster and then you see the toaster, it will give you a second look. Normally you would go, oh, toaster. Everybody has a toaster. But the same thing with the compacts. These beautiful compacts are Elgin American, and they were made here in Elgin. These are all from the post-war period, post-World War II. And you can see all the different shapes. It's all the same type of product. It's all a metal box. Oops, sorry. Metal box, and but it has all these different artistic designs. And so there were a lot of artists in the factory that were doing this work, many of them women, and then the men were doing the metal shopping. So this is a powder compact. I'll just explain that. So there's powder in there and a little mirror, and that's where we get powder our nose. Yes. Okay. So the compacts are there. Ira did a beautiful, almost like a poster.
Yeah, and the compacts, again, I didn't do anything with those. I just assembled them together because the aesthetic value of them stands by themselves. I mean, they're just beautiful works of art on their own, and I just wanted to emphasize that. And the diversity, the difference between all the different designs that are out there.
The shapes of the cases, right. And so you see, here's our little watch that was magnified in the photograph.
High noon.
Same with this little Elgin Fire Department uniform button. Okay. That was also highlighted. There's a pocket watch over here, and these bottles, if you can see that, are all Elgin dairies. That's an Elgin brewery, Elgin Eagle Brewery. And so I think you were saying that that they highlighted a bottle so much.
Yeah, the bottles. The challenge for me in photographing the bottles was similar to what we experienced just now with this glass case. A lot of reflection coming back on the camera. So they reflected all kinds of colors, and of course, for what I wanted to do for the museum, for the uploading a picture, I wanted a really realistic, true picture of it. And I kept getting everything but that. It was quite a challenge for me. And then I decided to embrace that, and that's how we have the one picture where we have a lot of orange, a lot of blue that was reflecting into the bottles and the shapes of the bottles. I felt that made a really nice abstract photo. So.
Yeah, definitely. And authentic. It really gives you a feel of it. And then this here is the metal, correct?
That's the metal.
That's the metal.
Yeah.
And then that's the time warp.
That is the time warp.
Awesome.
Well, the museum really enjoys partnering with the library to bring all of as many exhibits as we can over here for more people to enjoy. And we also take exhibits from here, or at least the exhibit idea, and put it into our building at Old Main 360 Park Street. And we're open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 11 to 4.
Awesome.
And if I can, and you can cut this out if you would like, but if I can do an unashamedly promo, there is also a book about the exhibit that's available online. It has all of the images plus some others and the stories behind all of the work that's in there. That's available from blurb.com. And you can just go online. You can actually look at all the pages online without buying the book, too. So, but it is for sale on blurb.com. Just look at art and artifacts.
It'll be neat to actually just have it in your own collection and have a piece of history in your own home. So right. Here at Gilboa, we definitely appreciate Elgin History Museum and partnering with us and giving us this opportunity, as well as the community, to be able to, because we come here anyway, it makes it a convenience to have, two for the price of one, pretty much, in a way,
right.
If you think about it.
Exactly.
And we are very, very fortunate to have all these institutions right here in Elgin. For what they have to offer, for volunteers like myself, and for people who are coming to use them. We're very, very lucky.
Yes, exactly. And we're lucky as well to have you all. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in and watching this video today. And we hope that everyone take good care. Thank you.